On this week's Growing, Eating, and Educating, NanBop Farm Director Andrea Bushre shows us how to dry flowers and use them for different farm animal enrichment activities. So let's head out to NanBop Farm and get our hands dirty.
Hey guys, welcome back to Growing, Eating, and Educating. I'm your Farm Director, Andrea Bushre. And today we are in our high tunnel and I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing with drying our flowers. So you can kind of see behind me, we have our sunflowers hanging here. So the idea of our sunflowers is that we'll hang them to dry so that during the winter we can actually hang them up in the chicken coop so that the chickens have something to kind of peck at and entertain themselves during the winter when maybe there's not quite as much going on in the coop and they're not moving around the farm as much. So this keeps it so that they're entertained, but they're also not turning any sort of aggression toward each other or things like that. They're more occupied on the objects here. These sunflowers don't really offer much for nutrition. It's not really a feed supplement. It's more of a snack and something for them to play with. The way that we did this is we went into the sunflower patch, we cut the sunflowers at the base, tied it with some twine, and then tied it into the rafters of our high tunnels. Ideally, when you do this, you want to do it in a space that's not too humid so that the flowers don't mold. And then you want it to be in a place that stays a little bit sunny so that they dry out quicker. So these guys are pretty much dried and ready to go. So we'll be using these pretty soon when we put the chickens in their winter home. So here we have our status in our Gomphrena. Of all the flowers that we grew this year, these ones were the best that we could use for drying. The reason is because these actually hold their color a lot better. So a lot of different flowers that you try to dry out, a lot of times their petals will turn brown or yellow and just kind of lose their color. So we picked these because they keep their color and it'll be a nice pop in the winter. We want to use these for wreaths or dried bouquets, stuff like that. Different considerations, you want to make sure that you take off as much leafage as you can off of the stem. If you don't, oftentimes they'll either mold or it'll just be a lot harder once they're already dried to take those leaves off. So doing it now is just a lot easier. Otherwise you might break stems because they become so much more brittle after you've dried them. So that's kind of the idea with these. We have dried them the same way that we did the sunflowers. So we just wrapped them up, put them in the rafters of the high tunnel, and they're just hanging here until they start to dry. This is something that we're trying to experiment a little bit. This was the easiest place for us to be able to dry this year. But next year we'll probably try it in different places and just kind of experiment from there. So stay tuned with us to see how we're doing it in the future. Thanks.